In the far corner of the galaxy, among glowing nebulae and silent asteroid belts, stood the magnificent Great Galactic Archive. The building floated like a crystal moon, shining with soft blue light. Inside it worked thousands of scholars, researchers, and historians from many alien species. They spent their lives studying old empires, forgotten legends, and the rise and fall of civilizations. Among them was Dr. Sarana Vareth, a young historian from the Vereen Dominion. Her species was tall, elegant, and known for their deep respect for logic and science. The Vereen believed that knowledge was the highest form of power, and Sarana was one of their brightest minds. She had silver-blue skin that shimmered faintly under the archive lights, and calm, golden eyes that always searched for truth. Sarana was known for her intelligence and skepticism. She did not believe in old myths or emotional stories that had no solid proof. Her colleagues often came to her for advice because she was fair, direct, and rational. But there was one topic that always made her roll her eyes: the legend of humans. Humans were said to be an ancient species that lived long before the Vereen rose to power. Old records described them as emotional, passionate, and fierce. Some claimed they were capable of both great kindness and terrible destruction. They were called warriors, without equal, but to Sarana those were fairy tales. One afternoon, as she sat in the silent data chamber, Sarana reviewed an old digital scroll written by a forgotten species called the Rendari. The document mentioned humans again, describing them as the fire that refused to die. It told stories of humans standing against vast empires, fighting hopeless wars and still finding a way to win. Sarana sighed as she read. "Romantic nonsense," she muttered. "No species could survive like that. Emotion is weakness." Her assistant, a small insect-like being named Tern, tilted his head curiously. "But Dr. Sarana," he buzzed softly, "many records from other species mention humans too. Could all of them be wrong?" "Of course," Sarana said, closing the file. "Stories spread easily, especially among frightened civilizations. They see their enemies as monsters, then call them legends. It is the same pattern throughout history." Tern fluttered his wings nervously. "Still, some believe humans fought the first galactic empire and lived." Sarana smiled lightly. "And others believe in ghost ships. My dear Tern, belief is not proof." She returned to her work, organizing files and cross-checking historical data. She wanted her research to be perfect. Her current project was about the lost races of the Outer Rim, species that vanished without trace. She listed names, dates, and theories, but whenever she reached Homo sapiens, humans, she simply wrote, "Extinct. Unverified existence." In the evenings, when the archive grew quiet and the stars shone outside the great glass walls, Sarana often sat alone staring at the galaxy. She would sometimes wonder what it must have been like to live in the Age of Legends, when empires fought among burning worlds, when heroes rose and fell. But then she reminded herself, such stories were illusions. The universe followed reason, not imagination. Still, something about the human files unsettled her. Their records were strange. Unlike other extinct species, human data appeared everywhere, in fragments, in songs, in battle logs, in the carvings of ancient ruins. Even the machines of other civilizations mentioned fighting Terrans. Yet no living being had ever found a human body, ship, or planet. Once a group of explorers claimed to have found Earth, the human homeworld, but the report turned out false. The planet was empty, burned long ago. There were no traces of cities or bones, only silence. So Sarana continued her life as usual, studying, teaching, and correcting others' mistakes. She had no time for old legends. One bright morning, as the twin suns of the Vereen system rose, Sarana walked into the archive's main hall. The marble floor reflected the light of the stars. At the far end, a massive holographic map of the galaxy flickered softly, marking new exploration routes. The archive director, an elder Vereen named Master Kirill, approached her. His expression was serious, Dr. Serana, he said, handing her a crystal data tablet. We've received a signal. Serana frowned. A distress call? Yes. From the outer rim. An automated beacon, centuries old. It came from a region near the dead sectors, uncharted and dangerous. What species? She asked, expecting another routine case. That's the strange part, Kirill replied. The beacon's identification code doesn't match any known alien registry. It's ancient, and it uses a language we have never seen before. Serana raised an eyebrow. Never seen before? That's unlikely. The archive has records of every galactic tongue. The director looked uneasy. That is what worries us. The linguists tried to decode it. They found similarities with a lost language, something called English. The word made Serana pause. She recognized it from her readings. It was one of the dialects of the mythical humans. She gave a small laugh. Surely you don't think this has anything to do with them? Kirill sighed. I do not believe anything yet. But the Council wants this investigated. You are our best historian on ancient species. You will go with the expedition. Me? Serana asked in surprise. I am not an explorer. Perhaps not, Kirill said, but you understand history. And if the beacon truly belongs to the species you claim never existed, then history might change forever. Serana hesitated. Logic told her it would be a waste of time. The outer rim was full of dead ships, pirate traps, and malfunctioning signals. Yet, a small spark of curiosity began to flicker inside her. Very well, she said finally. I will go, but I expect to return with nothing but data corruption. Kirill smiled gently. We shall see. A few days later, the exploration vessel Valaris departed from the Dominion's main spaceport. It was a sleek silver craft, built for long journeys. Serana boarded with a small crew, engineers, pilots, and scientists. Her assistant Tern came along as well, eager and nervous. As they entered the deep void of the outer rim, the stars grew thin and cold. Radio signals faded, and strange electromagnetic storms surrounded them. Many ships had vanished in this region, but the Valaris moved carefully, guided by its advanced sensors. Days passed. The crew scanned empty space, detecting fragments of metal and dust. But then, one evening, the signal appeared again, faint but clear, repeating every 30 seconds. This is Automated Distress Beacon UNS Resolute. Crew status, unknown. Coordinates, Sector 9X07. The alien crew exchanged confused looks. The voice in the transmission was unlike anything they had heard, deep, emotional, and human. Serana stared at the translation screen. The name Resolute sounded familiar. She searched her tablet and found a reference in one of the oldest archives. A United Nations ship Resolute, launched from Earth 2,000 years ago. Her heart began to beat faster. It can't be, she whispered. They followed the signal through fields of wreckage until something massive appeared ahead. A gigantic vessel drifting among the ruins of war. Its hull was scarred, its engines silent, but its design was unmistakably different from any known alien ship. It bore faded markings and letters that spelled UNS Resolute. The crew gasped. Even Serana stood speechless. Her eyes widened as she slowly realized what she was seeing. It wasn't a story. It wasn't a legend. It was real. Tern's voice trembled. Dr. Serana, is that human? She could barely answer. I don't know. The ship hung in space like a ghost from another time. Its metal surface reflected the light of distant stars, and its silent shadow seemed to whisper forgotten tales of courage and loss. Serana's logical mind fought to explain it. Maybe it was a copy, a fake, or a ship built by another race inspired by human myths. But her heart told her otherwise. Something about the vessel felt alive, a quiet strength that reached across the centuries. As the Valaris approached the ancient warship, Serana felt a strange chill. For the first time in her life, her certainty began to crack. Maybe, just maybe, the universe had kept one secret from her. and that secret was waiting to awaken. The research ship Volaris drifted slowly toward the silent giant, the ancient human warship UNS Resolute. The stars around them shimmered faintly, but the great ship looked lifeless, covered in dust and scars from forgotten battles. Its hull was marked by burns, and one of its engines was cracked open like the shell of an old beast. Yet despite the damage, the vessel still had a strange power about it, as if it refused to die. Dr. Sarana Vireth stood at the viewing deck, staring through the large, transparent window. Her golden eyes reflected the ancient letters painted across the ship's side. She had seen thousands of ships in her career, alien cruisers, Dominion fleets, even ancient battle hulks, but nothing like this. The Resolute looked strong, heavy, and built with purpose. It was not made for beauty or luxury. It was made to survive. Her assistant Tern buzzed nervously beside her. "It's so old," he whispered. "Do you really think it's human?" Sarana's voice was quiet. "The design matches their records. Straight lines, thick armor, simple structure. It looks almost primitive, but efficient." The pilot, a reptilian alien named Varric, turned in his chair. "Primitive or not, that thing is massive. If its weapons still work, one shot could tear us apart." "Relax," Sarana said, still staring. "It's been dead for centuries. There's no danger." At least that's what she told herself. The crew prepared to board the ship. They wore protective suits, carried scanners, and activated small floating drones that glowed blue in the dark. The docking clamp locked onto the Resolute's side with a metallic hiss. A small airlock opened and Sarana led the team inside. The corridor was dark and silent. Dust floated in the air like frozen mist. The walls were scratched, some sections burnt black. Signs in faded English lined the walls. Engineering deck, medical bay, bridge access. Everything looked strangely human. Simple buttons, metal doors, and warning signs. Tern shivered. "It feels like walking inside a tomb," Sarana nodded. "That's exactly what it is." The team spread out, scanning each hallway. Most systems were dead, but now and then, a small light blinked on, weak but still alive. The Resolute had not completely given up. After hours of searching, one of the drones sent an alert. It had detected power coming from the lower decks. "Power?" Sarana repeated.
"After all this time?"
They hurried to the location. The corridor led them to a thick steel door marked Cryo Bay. Authorized personnel only. The panel beside it was cracked, but still faintly glowing. Sarana placed her hand on the scanner and the door opened with a heavy groan. Inside were rows of stasis pods, glass chambers lined in neat formation. Most were dark, their displays broken or frozen. Some still contained figures, human skeletons long gone. But one pod near the center glowed faintly with blue light. Its glass was fogged from within and the monitor blinked weakly. Sarana stepped closer. "Is that?" Tern gasped. "There's someone inside." The crew gathered around the pod. Through the misty glass they saw a figure, a man. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and wearing a dark uniform with faded patches. His face was pale, calm, almost peaceful, as if sleeping. Sarana leaned closer, reading the data on the screen. Name: Captain Adrian Cole. Status: suspended animation. Cryocycle active. Duration: 1,963 years. The number made her freeze. Impossible. Tern looked at her with wide eyes. "He's been asleep for almost 2,000 years? Sarana's voice trembled slightly. "Yes, and somehow. His pod is still working," Varric hissed. "That's not possible. No cryo system lasts this long, but it was working, barely." The lights on the control panel flickered. The life readings were faint but steady. Whoever this human was, he was still alive. Back aboard the Volaris, the crew argued over what to do next. Some wanted to leave the pod alone. Others wanted to wake him. Sarana listened silently before making her decision. "This is the discovery of a lifetime," she said. "If he truly is human, we cannot abandon him. We must bring him back carefully and study the technology. But if he wakes up," Varric asked, "we don't know what he'll do." "He will be weak," Sarana said logically. "And confused. We will make sure he's not a threat." They transported the pod to the Volaris's medical bay, connecting it to new power sources. Sarana stayed beside it, reading every display. She had studied humans for years in theory, but now she was staring at one, real, alive, and breathing. Tern looked at her nervously. "Should we open it?" Sarana hesitated. Every part of her logical mind told her to wait, to analyze everything first. But a stronger feeling, a curiosity pushed her forward. "Yes," she said softly. "Open it." As the cryo chamber hissed, cold vapor filled the room. The temperature dropped sharply. The crew stepped back, watching with wide eyes. The glass lid slowly lifted and a gust of ancient air rushed out. Inside, the man's chest rose and fell. His eyes fluttered open. For a moment, silence filled the room. Only the sound of the machines could be heard. Then the man spoke, his voice dry but steady. "Where am I?" Serana's breath caught. The language was human, but the ship's translator immediately converted it into words everyone understood. "You are aboard the Dominion ship Valeris," she said carefully. "You've been in stasis for a very long time." The man blinked slowly, trying to focus. His gaze met hers, and calm, sharp, and full of quiet strength. "Stasis? How long?" "Nearly 2,000 years, she replied. He looked down at his hands, flexing his fingers. His expression didn't show shock or fear, only deep thought. "Then humanity is gone," Serana hesitated. "We believe so. There are no known human colonies, no records of survivors." He closed his eyes for a moment, then nodded. "Figures." The room remained silent. The aliens watched him carefully, uncertain what to expect. Serana studied every detail. His posture, his voice, his calmness. She had expected panic or confusion, but instead she saw control. He looked like a soldier even as he sat weak from stasis. "What is your name?" she asked gently. "Captain Adrian Cole," he said. "United Nations Space Command. Ship, Resolute." He looked around the alien room. "Guess she's not in one piece anymore." "You commanded that ship?" Serana asked. "I did," he said simply, "until the war ended. Or maybe it never did." Serana frowned. "War with who?" He gave a small, humorless smile. "You wouldn't know them. They're dust now." Over the next few hours, the crew ran medical scans and fed him nutrients. His body was weak but stable. Adrian remained calm, observing everything around him. He asked questions about the galaxy, the year, and the Dominion. Serana answered carefully, watching him with growing curiosity. He listened in silence, then said softly, "So humanity really vanished. Just like that?" Serana nodded. "Yes. According to records, your planet, Earth, was destroyed during the Great Collapse. No one survived." Adrian's expression didn't change. "People always say that." "We've heard it before." Serana tilted her head. "You sound unsurprised." He looked at her with tired eyes. "Humans have a saying. As long as one of us breathes, we're not extinct." He gave a faint smile. "Looks like that still holds true." His words struck something deep inside Serana. For so long she had believed humans were myths, exaggerated tales of impossible warriors. Yet the man before her spoke with quiet certainty, not arrogance. There was something unshakable about him. Later that night, when the others rested, Serana remained in the medbay, standing near his pod. Adrian was awake, staring at the stars through the small window. "Why are you watching me?" he asked softly. "I'm studying you," she replied. "You are not what I expected. What did you expect?" he asked. "A barbarian," she admitted. "The stories called your kind violent and emotional, dangerous." He gave a small chuckle. "We were all of that. And more." "Then how did your people survive so long?" she asked. He looked out the window again. "Because we never gave up. That's what made us human." Serana said nothing. The words echoed in her mind. We never gave up. For a species long extinct, that idea seemed to still burn inside this man. Suddenly, the Valeris shook violently. The alarm lights turned red. The pilot's voice crackled through the comms. "We're under attack. Pirate ships incoming. Corthan raiders." Serana froze. "Pirates? Here?" Adrian's eyes sharpened instantly. "Show me your bridge," he said, standing up slowly. "You're too weak," Serana began. But he was already moving, his steps steady and focused. "Trust me, Doctor. You'll want me on that bridge." And in that moment, Serana saw what the old legends had meant. The calm before the storm, the courage that did not need power, and the will of a warrior who had faced the darkness before and survived. The ship Valeris trembled as red alarm lights flashed through every corridor. Sirens howled like the cries of a wounded beast. The crew scrambled to their stations, their voices filled with fear and confusion. Outside the windows, streaks of light flashed. Enemy ships approaching fast. Dr. Serana Vareth rushed to the bridge, her heart pounding. She could already feel the pressure of the situation. The Corthan raiders were infamous, pirates who preyed on research ships and merchants. They showed no mercy, taking what they wanted and destroying what they couldn't steal. "Shields at 60%, shouted the pilot Varric. "Weapons charging, but they're too many," cried the tactical officer. Serana looked at the radar. 5 pirate vessels surrounded them. The Volaris was a science ship not built for battle. It had weak defenses and no combat-trained crew. Before she could speak, a calm voice came from behind her. "Your formation is wrong." Everyone turned. Captain Adrian Cole, the human they had revived just hours ago, stood in the doorway. His face was calm, his blue eyes sharp and focused. Though he still looked weak from stasis, his posture was that of a leader. Varric hissed. "You shouldn't be here. This is a battle, not a history lesson." Adrian stepped forward, his voice firm. "Then you need someone who's been in one." The crew exchanged uncertain looks. Serana hesitated, torn between fear and logic. Yet something in Adrian's expression made her pause. He wasn't panicking. He wasn't shouting. He looked as if he'd faced worse and survived. "What do you suggest, Captain?" she asked carefully. Adrian walked to the command console. His hands moved quickly over the controls, studying the layout. "Your ship's weapons are weak, but your sensors are good. That means you can outthink them." He pointed at the holographic map. "They'll come in from 3 sides, front, left, and top. Pirates always try to confuse their targets. You'll lose shields if you stay here. Move behind that asteroid cluster and power down everything. Make them think you're disabled." Varric blinked. "That's madness." "We'll be sitting ducks." Adrian smiled faintly. "Exactly. And while they think you're helpless, we strike first." His confidence was unnerving but strangely inspiring. Serana finally nodded. "Do as he says." Varric hesitated, then obeyed. The Volaris drifted behind the asteroids, shutting down lights and engines. The pirates, seeing no movement, began circling like hungry beasts. Minutes passed. The air grew tense. The crew waited in silence, every eye on Adrian. He watched the radar closely. "They're getting closer." "Closer now, Varric repeated. Adrian slammed his hand on the control. "Full power to engines. Fire forward cannons." The Volaris roared to life. Twin beams of light shot from the ship's front, striking one pirate vessel directly in its side. The explosion lit up the darkness like a small sun. The other pirates panicked, turning their ships wildly. "Again!" Adrian shouted. "Use the debris as cover, move and fire." Serana could hardly believe what she was seeing. The man who had been asleep for 2,000 years was commanding their ship like it was his own. Every order was clear, every move perfectly timed. The crew followed him without hesitation. Under Adrian's direction, the Volaris danced between the asteroids, firing short bursts, vanishing into shadows, then striking again. The pirates' formation broke apart as confusion spread among them. "They can't track us," Varric shouted in surprise. Adrian nodded. "They're used to easy prey. You show them a fight. They crumble." One more shot hit a pirate ship's engine and it spiraled into the void. The remaining vessels turned and fled, leaving wreckage behind. Silence filled the bridge. The alarms faded. The battle was over. Serana looked at Adrian in disbelief. You saved us." He gave a small shrug. "You did all the hard work. I just told you where to aim. But everyone on the bridge knew better. Without him, they would have been destroyed." After the battle, the crew celebrated quietly, still shaken but alive. The atmosphere changed. Whispers spread through the ship. The human, once seen as a relic, was now their savior. Serana found Adrian in the observation room, staring out at the stars. He wore a borrowed Dominion uniform, slightly too large for him. The silver fabric shimmered under the starlight. "You seem calm," she said softly. He smiled faintly. "Calm doesn't win battles, Doctor." "Planning does." Serana sat beside him. For the first time, she didn't look at him as a specimen, but as a person. "You have been frozen for almost 2,000 years. You wake up in a strange galaxy and still you fight like you never left the battlefield. How?" Adrian's gaze didn't leave the stars. "Because some things don't change. Fear, hope, survival. They're the same no matter how many centuries pass." She tilted her head. "We're all humans like you?" He chuckled softly. "Not all, but many would have done the same. We weren't perfect, far from it. We argued, we made mistakes, but when it mattered, we stood together." Serana thought about her own people. The Vereen were logical and peaceful, but they rarely fought for anything. They avoided risk, avoided passion. Watching this human made her realize something she had never considered. Courage was not always logical. Later, in the ship's main lab, Serana studied the technology they had recovered from the Resolute. Its systems were outdated by modern standards, yet its core design was brilliant. Strong, simple, and practical. Tern fluttered near her shoulder. "Dr. Serana," he said carefully, "the human's brain patterns are unusual." She looked up. "Unusual?" "Yes, he reacts faster than most species. When the battle started, his stress levels stayed low, almost like he was built for conflict." Serana thought for a moment. Maybe he was. That night, unable to sleep, she walked the corridors of the Volaris. The ship was quiet except for the soft hum of the engines. She found Adrian again, working in the engine room, studying the damaged systems. "You're fixing our ship now?" she asked, surprised. He smiled without looking up. "It helps me think. Besides, your engineers were about to overload the reactor. Thought I'd save you the trouble of another explosion." She couldn't help but laugh softly. "You act like this is normal." "For me it is," he said, tightening a bolt. "When everything falls apart, humans build again. It's what we do." Serana leaned against the wall, watching him work. There was something deeply human about his calm focus. He didn't seem like a legend, just a man doing what he believed in. The next day, Serana called a meeting. The crew gathered in the central chamber. "The Corthan pirates will return," she said. "They never give up after a failed raid," Varric grunted. "Then what do we do?" "We can't fight them again." Adrian stepped forward. "Yes, you can. You just need to think differently." He drew a simple map on the holodisplay, a plan that surprised everyone. "We'll use their greed against them. They think we're a science ship. We'll make them believe we found human technology. That will draw them into a trap." Serana raised a brow. "A trap?" "Exactly," Adrian said. "We'll hide the Volaris behind the Resolute. When they close in, we'll use the old ship's self-destruct systems to cripple their fleet. Then we escape." Varric stared. "You want to use that ancient wreck as a weapon?" Adrian nodded. "The Resolute was built for war. Even dying, she can still fight one last battle." The room fell silent. Slowly, Serana nodded. "We'll do it." For the next several hours, the crew worked tirelessly. Under Adrian's guidance, they reconnected the Resolute's damaged power lines and weapon systems. The old human ship came to life again, glowing with faint blue light. As the crew watched, Serana whispered, "It's like waking a sleeping giant." Adrian smiled softly. "She's been waiting for this." He placed a hand on the old metal wall, almost like greeting an old friend. "One more fight, girl," he murmured. "Let's make it count." Serana heard the words and felt a strange warmth inside her. There was a bond between man and machine, something no Varine could ever understand. Humans, it seemed, gave meaning even to metal. When the preparations were complete, the crew gathered on the bridge. The trap was set. The Resolute floated silently, appearing lifeless once again while the Volaris hid behind her shadow. Adrian stood ready, his expression calm. "They'll come soon," he said. "They always do." Serana looked at him, wondering how someone could be so certain in the face of danger. "How do you know they'll return?" she asked. Adrian turned to her, his eyes steady. "Because I would." And far away, on the edge of the radar, the Corthan fleet appeared again, larger, stronger, hungry for revenge. The storm was coming, but this time, the galaxy would see something it hadn't seen in 1,000 years, a human warrior standing ready once more. The Volaris hovered silently behind the hulking frame of the UNS Resolute. Its crew waited with tense anticipation, knowing that the Corthan pirates were closing in. Outside the observation windows, red dots streaked across the sensor display. The pirates' fleet advancing steadily, their engines bright in the darkness. Serana Vareth stood beside Adrian Cole on the bridge, her heart pounding. For hours she had studied the old human's tactics as he trained her crew. He taught them to think like humans, to adapt, to predict, and to improvise. Now it was time to see if his lessons would work in real combat. Adrian's expression was calm, almost casual, but his eyes were sharp, scanning every detail of the approaching fleet. "Remember," he said softly, "fear is the first thing they will try to use against you. If you hesitate, they will destroy you." Varric, the pilot, swallowed hard. "And if we do fight, Captain, can we win?" Adrian smiled faintly. "Winning isn't always about being stronger. It's about being smarter, faster and willing to take the risks no one else will. Now let's begin. He moved to the control console, his hands flying over the panels. With a few precise commands, he activated the Resolute's hidden systems. Its long, dormant weapons, reinforced shields, and concealed maneuvering thrusters. The old warship hummed with new life, glowing faintly under the alien lights. "Everyone, stay sharp," Adrian instructed. "We have one chance to make this work." Outside, the Corthan fleet approached, expecting an easy target. They had seen countless ships before, none able to resist their might. The Valaris, with the Resolute looming behind it, appeared vulnerable, just another weak research vessel floating alone in the void. The first pirate ship fired, its weapons blazing toward the Valaris. The human crew of the Valaris held their breath. Then at Adrian's command, the Resolute sprang into action. Its engines roared with sudden force, moving with unexpected speed and precision. Hidden turrets unfolded from the hull, blasting the attacking ship with devastating power. Sarana gasped. "It's alive!" Adrian's voice was calm but firm. "She's been waiting. Now we fight." The pirate fleet was thrown into chaos. They had expected an unarmed vessel, but instead they faced a ghost from a lost era. A ship that fought like a predator, guided by a mind that had seen countless battles. The Resolute's cannons tore through the formation, disabling engines and shields with deadly accuracy. Adrian guided the Valaris and her crew like a seasoned conductor leading an orchestra. "Move left. Cover your blind spot. Fire when they're distracted. Don't follow patterns. Create them." Sarana watched in awe as the alien crew executed his orders. They were no longer frightened scientists and pilots. Under his guidance, they became warriors, their fear replaced with confidence and focus. Every movement had a purpose, every decision a calculated risk. Hours passed. The battle raged around them, but the Valaris and the Resolute began to turn the tide. The pirates, though more numerous, were unprepared for the human-style tactics. The ancient warship acted as a shield and spear, protecting the Valaris while striking at the enemy from unexpected angles. Adrian moved quickly between stations, giving precise instructions. "Engineer, overload the rear shields. Make them think we're weakening. Pilot, circle around the debris field. Draw them in. Fire at their engines, one shot at a time." The alien crew followed his commands without hesitation. Even Sarana, a historian who had spent her life studying humans from afar, realized she had never understood them fully. Humans were unpredictable yet precise, fierce yet calm. The Corthan pirates were strong, but they were not human. They lacked that spark that allowed a smaller, weaker force to survive and even triumph. The pirates, frustrated by their losses, tried to regroup. One of their larger ships broke away from the formation and attempted a direct assault on the Valaris. Adrian noticed immediately. "Targeting that ship," he said. "Engineer, power the front cannons fully. Pilot, angle the Valaris. Bring them into our trap." The Valaris swung around the asteroid debris as the Resolute fired a precise volley. The pirate ship's engines were shredded, sending it spinning helplessly into the void. The rest of the fleet hesitated, unsure of what they were facing. Adrian leaned over the console. "They don't know what's coming next. Good. Confusion is our ally." He taught the crew a new maneuver, one that humans called flanking through chaos. The Valaris and the Resolute moved unpredictably, weaving between asteroids and firing from angles the pirates could not anticipate. The enemy formation broke apart completely, some fleeing while others were destroyed. Sarana watched from the bridge, her mind racing. She had spent years denying the existence of human warriors, dismissing their stories as myths, yet now she could see the truth with her own eyes. Adrian Cole was not just a soldier. He was a strategist, a teacher, and a leader. His presence alone had transformed a scared crew into a fighting force, capable of standing against impossible odds. She remembered reading about humans in ancient texts, their bravery, their stubbornness, their creativity in battle. She had never believed it. She had thought humans were emotional, reckless, and doomed. But now she understood. Humans did not rely on strength or numbers alone. They relied on spirit, the ability to see a path when none seemed to exist and to fight when all hope seemed lost. The battle continued through the void, each maneuver more daring than the last. Adrian remained calm, issuing orders that seemed simple but required extraordinary trust. The alien crew followed every instruction, their fear fading with each successful strike. The Valaris's weak weapons became deadly tools, guided by the precision of a human mind. During a brief lull, Adrian walked the corridors of the Valaris. He checked on the crew, offering advice and encouragement. "Don't just follow instructions," he said. "Think ahead, anticipate. Humans survive because we adapt." Turn, the insect-like assistant buzzed anxiously. "Captain, they're regrouping again." "Another attack is coming," Adrian nodded. "Good, let them come. The stronger they think they are, the easier they fall." He returned to the bridge and took control again. Every decision was calculated, every move deliberate. Serana watched, realizing something extraordinary. The human's mind operated differently. Where the aliens relied on logic and repetition, he relied on instinct, experience, and courage. The final phase of the battle approached. The remaining pirates, desperate to finish their prey, focused all their firepower on the Valaris. Adrian had anticipated this. Engineer, overload the Resolute's auxiliary power. Create the illusion we're weakening. Pilot, position behind the asteroid belt. They'll take the bait. The pirates attacked, rushing toward the Valaris as planned. Just as they closed in, the Resolute sprang into action. Hidden energy cannons fired in a precise sequence, cutting off the lead pirate ship's engines. Debris from destroyed vessels created chaos, and the remaining pirates collided with each other in confusion. Serana could hardly believe it. The trap had worked perfectly. Adrian's plan had turned the hunters into the hunted. "Stand down," Adrian commanded firmly, though no one had dared defy him. "They're trapped. Target the engines, one last strike." The Valaris fired again, and the remaining pirate ships were disabled or forced to retreat. Silence returned to the void. The crew gathered on the bridge, exhausted but alive. The battle was over. The Corthan pirates had been defeated not by numbers or raw power, but by strategy, courage, and determination. Serana turned to Adrian, her eyes wide. I don't know what to say. You've changed everything. My people believed humans were myths, but you proved them wrong." Adrian looked out at the stars, his expression calm. "I didn't do it alone. Every one of you followed orders, trusted the plan, and fought. That's what humans do. We lead, but we rely on each other." Varric, the pilot, shook his head in disbelief. "I don't understand. We've fought fleets before, but nothing like this. You're thinking." "It's different," Adrian smiled faintly. "Humans survive because we adapt. We learn, we change, we fight when necessary. You saw it today. You can do it too, if you believe in yourselves." Serana felt something stir inside her. The stories she had dismissed as myth were not myths at all. Humans were not perfect, but they were resilient. Courage, she realized, was not limited to size, strength, or technology. It lived in the mind and heart of those willing to stand when all seemed lost. Later, as the crew repaired the Valaris and the Resolute, Adrian walked beside Serana. She asked quietly, "Captain, why did you survive? Why are you here?" He looked at her with calm determination. "Because humanity refuses to be forgotten, and because some battles are not just for the present, they are for the future." Serana nodded slowly, understanding more than words could express. She had seen the truth with her own eyes. Humans were warriors not because of their power or size, but because of their spirit, the will to fight, adapt, and protect, and in the stars above, that spirit had not died. The galaxy was quiet now. The Corthan pirates had been defeated, their fleet scattered and crippled. For the crew of the Valaris, the battle had been exhausting, mentally, physically, and emotionally. They had faced impossible odds, yet survived, guided by a human warrior from a species long believed extinct. Dr. Serana Vareth stood on the bridge, looking at the stars. The afterglow of the destroyed pirate ships glimmered faintly on the sensors. Like sparks fading into the void, she could still feel her heart pounding from the adrenaline, her mind racing with what she had witnessed. Captain Adrian Cole sat in the command chair, his posture relaxed but alert. Despite centuries in stasis, despite being thrust into an alien galaxy, he had commanded a flawless victory. The aliens called him a savior, but he remained humble. Serana approached him quietly. "Captain, I still can't believe it. You led us to victory, against odds we thought were impossible." Adrian gave a small smile. "I just followed what humans always do. We adapt, we fight, and we never give up." Serana shook her head. "I denied it. I denied the existence of human warriors. I thought it was all myth, but you proved it was real. Adrian leaned back. The myth was true, and now it's your turn to tell the story. The crew spent the next few days repairing both the Volaris and the ancient Resolute. Adrian moved quietly among them, helping wherever he could. He taught them techniques humans had used in the past, ways to anticipate an enemy's moves, ways to turn fear into strength, ways to act decisively when hesitation could cost lives. The aliens were quick learners. Even Sarana, who had always relied on logic over instinct, found herself thinking differently under his guidance. Humans, she realized, were not only fighters but teachers. They inspired others to rise beyond their limits. Turn, her small insect-like assistant, buzzed around Adrian excitedly. He's incredible, Dr. Sarana. He shows us how to think fast and act wisely. I feel braver than ever. Sarana nodded. Humans have that effect, Turn. Courage spreads from one to another like fire. You only need a spark. Adrian overheard and smiled faintly. Good. That's how we survive. By passing courage forward. As the repairs continued, Sarana asked Adrian about his life before stasis. He told her stories of Earth, of humanity's struggles, of battles fought and friends lost. He spoke not as a legend, but as a person who had lived, loved, and fought. Sarana listened, fascinated. Every tale, every memory, showed her a truth she had never fully grasped. Humans were extraordinary not because of technology, but because of spirit. Their will to survive, to protect, to fight for what was right. That was what had made them warriors. You were not just a soldier, Sarana said softly. You were humanity's last hope. Adrian shook his head. No, I was one of many. Humans were never alone. We worked together, we trusted each other. That's what allowed us to stand even against impossible odds. Sarana looked at him with admiration. The legends she had dismissed were alive in this one man. Not in exaggeration, but in reality. Humanity had not vanished completely. Its spirit had survived in Adrian, and through him it could inspire again. Word of the Volaris' victory spread quickly across the Dominion and beyond. Alien fleets that had once considered humans extinct now whispered their name with awe and respect. Records were updated, legends rewritten. For centuries, humans had been dismissed as myth. Now they were proven to be the greatest warriors the galaxy had ever seen. Sarana was asked to record the story officially. She agreed, realizing that she had a responsibility not only to history, but to the living proof standing beside her. Sitting in the archive's communication chamber, she began typing, "Humanity is not extinct. Its warriors live not only in stories but in spirit. Captain Adrian Cole, last of his kind, has shown us that courage, determination, and adaptability can overcome even the greatest odds. This is not myth. This is history." As she wrote, she glanced at Adrian, who was quietly observing the stars. He had returned to a thoughtful calm, almost as if he was pondering what lay ahead. "You've changed my life," Sarana admitted. Adrian looked at her with faint surprise. "No, you changed your own life. I just reminded you what humans can do." Months passed. The Volaris, with the Resolute still attached, became a symbol of hope and resilience. Adrian trained the alien crew further, sharing human tactics and teaching them to think like warriors, not just pilots. He taught them that battles were won not just with weapons, but with planning, courage, and teamwork. Sarana noticed the transformation among the crew. Fear had turned into confidence, hesitation into precision. Alien cultures that valued logic above all else began to understand the human way. Adaptability, creativity, and courage in the face of uncertainty. One evening, as the twin suns of the system set in a soft golden glow, Sarana and Adrian stood on the observation deck. The ship drifted through calm space, quiet now after months of conflict and repair. "You've done something remarkable here," Sarana said softly. "You've inspired not just humans, but every species on this ship." Adrian's eyes were steady. "I didn't do anything alone. Humans survive because we inspire each other, and now maybe we've inspired others too." Sarana smiled faintly. "The galaxy will remember you. Humanity will be remembered, all because one warrior refused to be forgotten." He looked at her, then at the stars. "Humans always believed in something worth protecting. That's why we fight, why we survive. Not for glory, not for power, for life and for hope." The words settled between them, a quiet truth that resonated beyond the confines of the ship. In the following weeks, the Volaris traveled to distant sectors, spreading knowledge of humanity's survival. Adrian met alien leaders, taught strategies, and shared the philosophy that had kept humans alive: courage, adaptability, and unity. Serana documented everything. She recorded battles, training, and stories of hope. Her skepticism was gone, replaced with a deep respect for the species she had once dismissed. Humans were not only warriors, they were a legacy of spirit that could survive even the vast emptiness of time. The crew of the Valaris had changed. They were no longer scientists and engineers afraid of conflict. They were warriors in their own right, inspired by the human who had awakened among them. Tern buzzed excitedly one day. "I feel stronger, braver, as if I can face anything now." Adrian patted him gently. "That's how it starts. Courage spreads. One person inspires another. And that's how species survive, not by strength alone, but by spirit." Serana watched, realizing that humanity's true power had never been technology or weapons. It had always been the fire inside, the determination to act when others would falter, the ability to rise when everything seemed lost. Years later, Serana stood on a quiet observation deck, writing the final entry in her records. Adrian had become a legend not just among humans, but across the galaxy. His leadership had changed the fate of many civilizations, proving that the spirit of a single human could ignite courage in countless others. She wrote, "Captain Adrian Cole has proven that humans are not myth. Their courage, ingenuity, and will to survive are unmatched. Even after centuries, one human can inspire an entire fleet, a species, even a galaxy. The human spirit is eternal, and its legacy is the courage to stand when all seems lost." Adrian approached her quietly. "Do you think they'll remember us?" Serana looked at him, smiling. "They will remember humanity. They will remember you, and they will remember that courage, once awakened, can change everything." He nodded, gazing out at the stars. "Then my mission is complete. Humanity lives, not just in stories, but in every life we inspire." The stars shone brightly in the void, silent witnesses to the truth. Humanity had survived, not through force alone, but through spirit. And in every corner of the galaxy, that spirit would continue, unbroken, unstoppable, eternal. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy saw humans not as myths or legends, but as what they truly were: warriors, leaders, and symbols of hope. And somewhere, deep among the stars, the fire of humanity burned brighter than ever before.